Buckle up, because this is not just another story about betrayal. This is about how I turned the tables in a way my wife never saw coming. You see, most people, when they catch their spouse cheating, they scream, they cry, they demand answers. But I didn't do any of that. I played the long game. I let my wife believe she had fooled me, let her think she was getting away with it, all while setting up a trap so perfect that when the moment came, she had nowhere to run. She thought she was in control. She thought I was blind. But by the time she realized what was happening, it was too late. And it all started with what I thought was the perfect marriage. I met Laura in my early 20s, back when love still felt simple. She was sharp, ambitious, and had a way of making everything seem possible. I fell for her fast, and I fell hard. She wanted to be a lawyer, and I admired that about her. She had dreams, and I had no problem stepping aside to help her chase them. I worked while she went through law school, taking on extra hours, handling the bills, doing whatever it took to support her. And when she passed the bar, I thought we had finally made it. We had put in the hard work, and now it was time to build the life we had always talked about, together. For a while, that's exactly what we did. We weren't perfect, but we were solid. We took weekend trips when we could, hosted dinners with friends, spent lazy Sundays on the porch with coffee and quiet conversations. Life felt predictable in the best way. Steady, reliable. And then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, something started to change. It wasn't one big moment. No dramatic fights, no sudden distance. Just a slow shift, like the ground eroding beneath my feet, little by little, until I looked down and realized I was standing on nothing at all. Laura had always been busy, but now she was too busy. She had always been ambitious, but now it felt like she was pulling away. At first, I told myself it was just stress. Her career was taking off, and with that came long hours, high-pressure cases, and an overwhelming workload. I didn't want to be the insecure husband who questioned every late night at the office or every exhausted sigh when she walked through the door. But something about it didn't sit right. I couldn't pinpoint it at first, but there were little things, moments that felt off, conversations that felt emptier, smiles that didn't quite reach her eyes. She was there, but she wasn't, and I felt it. I tried to be patient. I told myself marriages go through phases, that people change, that maybe this was just one of those times when we had to work a little harder to stay connected. So I put in the effort. I planned date nights, but she was always too tired. I asked about her day, but her answers became vague, as if she wasn't really telling me anything at all. I tried to be understanding, supportive, the same way I had always been, but the distance between us only grew wider. And then came the first real crack, the first undeniable sign that something was wrong. It was a small thing, really. A tiny moment that, in isolation, wouldn't have meant much. But when I look back, I realized that was the exact second everything started falling apart. One night, Laura came home late, later than usual. I had waited up for her, expecting the usual exhausted excuse, but when she walked in, something felt different. She barely acknowledged me, dropping her bag by the door as she headed straight to the shower. She didn't say hello, didn't ask about my day, didn't even meet my eyes. It was such a small thing, but I felt it. Something inside me told me this wasn't just stress. This wasn't just exhaustion. Something was wrong. And from that moment on, I couldn't shake the feeling. I didn't know it yet, but that was the night my marriage truly ended. Laura just didn't realize it yet. They say when you love someone, you trust them blindly. You believe their words, accept their excuses, and ignore the warning signs, even when they're staring you in the face. For months, I had tried to silence the nagging doubt in my mind, convincing myself that Laura was just stressed, overworked, or going through a phase. But deep down, I knew better. I just didn't want to admit it. That all changed when the little inconsistencies became patterns, when the excuses became scripted, when I realized I wasn't just being paranoid, I was being played. And once I saw it for what it was, there was no unseeing it. Laura had always taken pride in her appearance, but something about her routine had shifted. It started subtly: new clothes, an extra touch of makeup, perfume she never used before. At first, I chalked it up to her wanting to feel confident at work. But then I noticed the pattern. She started dressing differently on certain days. Tighter skirts, blouses that showed just a bit more, heels that she used to say hurt her feet. Those just happened to be the same days she worked late. Then came the workouts. Laura had never been much of a gym person, but suddenly, she was obsessed. She started going in the mornings before work, something she never did before. She'd come home flushed, glowing, not like someone who had been stressed all day, but like someone who had found a new source of excitement. When I asked why the sudden change, she gave me a vague answer about wanting to stay fit, but there was something in her voice, something forced. And then there was her phone. For most of our marriage, she had been casual with it, leaving it lying around, answering messages in front of me without a second thought. But now, it was glued to her hand. She started keeping it face down on the table. She silenced notifications. She would angle her body away from me when she typed. She would leave the room to answer calls, brushing it off as work stuff. The first few times, I let it go. The next few times, I asked who it was. Her answers were always the same, just work. But I noticed how quickly she would close out of messages when I walked into the room, how she would set her phone on silent if I sat next to her. Something wasn't right. Then came the late nights. At first, it was once a week, then twice. Then it became routine. I have an important case. I'm working late with the team. Ryan and I need to prep for trial. Ryan. That name kept coming up, over and over. Laura had mentioned him a few times before. Just another junior associate at the firm, young, ambitious, eager to impress. I had met him once at a work event. He had that smug confidence that some guys have, the kind that makes you instantly dislike them but not for any tangible reason. Now, suddenly, he was her go-to excuse. I started paying attention. If she said she had a late meeting, I'd check her firm's social media, nothing about a case. If she claimed to be buried in work, I'd send a casual text asking how it was going. Sometimes, she wouldn't even respond. One night, she told me she had a team dinner after work. I played along, told her to have fun. Then I called one of her colleagues, a guy I had met before, just making casual conversation. He had no idea about any dinner. I hung up and stared at my phone for a long time. That was the moment I knew, without a doubt, something was happening. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed more than just suspicion. I needed proof. So I started observing. Every time she left for work, I took note of the time. Every time she came home late, I checked the call logs on our shared phone bill. Patterns started forming. She would leave early on certain days Ryan was also scheduled to be in court. She would work late on nights when his schedule was mysteriously clear. I searched through our credit card statements, looking for charges that didn't add up. Dinners at restaurants I had never been to. Hotel bookings I never knew about. Still, I needed something concrete. And then, fate handed it to me. One evening, Laura rushed out of the house in a hurry, saying she had a briefing that couldn't wait. She left her laptop open. Laura was always meticulous about logging out of her accounts, but in her rush, she had forgotten. My heart pounded as I moved the mouse, the screen flickering to life. Her email was open. For a moment, I hesitated. But then I saw it. His name. Ryan. A whole thread of messages between them. I clicked. And there it was. A full exchange of messages, spanning weeks, months. Inside jokes. Whispered secrets. Plans for meetings that had nothing to do with work. And then, the final blow. Last night was amazing. I can't wait to see you again. My vision blurred. My pulse roared in my ears. It was real. It was happening. The woman I had sacrificed for, built a life with, trusted completely. She had betrayed me, and she thought I was too blind to see it. I could have confronted her right then and there. I could have called her, screamed, demanded an explanation, but I didn't. Because in that moment, I realized something. Laura had been lying to me for months, effortlessly, without hesitation. If I confronted her now, she would deny it. She would twist the truth, gaslight me, make me doubt what I had just seen with my own eyes. No, I couldn't let her see me break. I couldn't let her know I had figured it out. Not yet. So I closed her laptop. I took a deep breath, and I smiled. If she thought she was in control, she was wrong. Because now, the game had changed. She had been playing me all this time. Now, it was my turn. They say the worst part of betrayal isn't the act itself. It's the slow realization that the person you trusted most has been lying to your face for months. That every late night at work, every vague excuse, every glance at her phone with a secretive little smile wasn't just innocent distraction. It was deception, carefully crafted to make me believe everything was fine. But I wasn't going to be just another clueless husband who exploded in rage and got fed lies in return. No, I was going to be patient. I was going to be methodical. And when the time came, I was going to destroy her lies with undeniable proof. Laura had no idea that her carefully built web of secrets was already unraveling. The first step was information. I didn't need a dramatic confrontation, not yet. What I needed were facts, hard evidence, something she couldn't twist into a misunderstanding. I started simple. Our phone bill. We had been on the same plan for years, a relic of when we were young and excited about the idea of sharing everything. She never thought twice about it, probably assumed I never checked. And honestly, before now, I never had. But when I did, there it was. Ryan's number. Dozens of calls, always during her so-called late nights at the office. Text at odd hours, sometimes just minutes after she had kissed me goodnight and rolled over in bed. The pattern was undeniable. She had been talking to him constantly, but never once had she mentioned him beyond casual work conversations. That told me everything I needed to know. But I wasn't done. Next, I went through our shared credit card statements. Laura wasn't completely careless. She used cash for anything incriminating, which told me she was aware enough to cover her tracks. But even then, she had slipped up. There were high-end restaurant charges on nights she had sworn she was stuck in the office eating takeout. Boutique hotel stays under her name, but with no reason why she'd need one. Rideshare receipts from locations nowhere near her office or our home. Each one, by itself, could be explained away. But together, they painted a clear picture. She was lying. Again and again. Still, it wasn't enough. I needed something undeniable. Something I could throw in her face when the time was right. Something she couldn't weasel out of with tears and half-truths. So I took the next step. I hired a private investigator. The man I met was in his late 50s, the kind of guy who had seen it all and was never surprised. He listened to my suspicions with a nod, jotting down notes like my marriage was just another case file. "Give me a week," he said. I gave him 2. And when he came back, he didn't just have answers. He had everything. Photos, videos, locations, dates, times. They weren't just sneaking around occasionally. This had been going on for months. They had routines, places they met regularly, ways they covered their tracks. Ryan wasn't just some passing temptation. He was a full-blown affair, one she had worked hard to keep hidden. In the pictures, I saw Laura smiling in ways she hadn't around me in a long time. I saw them walking close, hands brushing, whispering things to each other like teenagers sneaking around. One image, in particular, burned into my memory. Laura standing in a parking lot, looking around nervously before slipping into Ryan's car. They had a whole system, a whole separate world they lived in behind my back, and I had the proof in my hands. But the biggest shock came when the investigator casually mentioned something that made my stomach drop. "By the way, Ryan's married." I blinked. "What?" "Yeah, married for almost 5 years. Wife's name is Claire." I sat there, staring at him, feeling the weight of those words settle over me. Ryan wasn't just betraying me. He was betraying someone else too. And just like me, Claire had no idea. For the first time since this started, I felt something other than anger. I felt obligation. Claire deserved to know. She deserved the truth, just like I had wanted it. But how do you tell a stranger that their entire world is about to crumble? I spent an entire night staring at my phone, debating what to do. Should I call her? Show up at her house? What if she already knew and had chosen to ignore it? But I knew, deep down, that wasn't the case. She was just like me, blind to the truth, living a lie. And she deserved the chance to do something about it. So I made the call. And that was the moment everything changed. When Claire answered, her voice was light, polite, completely unaware of what was about to hit her. "Hi, Claire. You don't know me, but my name is Tom. I think we need to talk." There was a pause. "I'm sorry, who?" I took a breath. "I'm Laura's husband." Another pause. I could almost hear the gears turning in her mind, trying to connect the dots. "What is this about?" she asked cautiously. I kept my voice steady. "It's about Ryan and Laura, and something I think you need to see." I expected her to hang up, to accuse me of lying, to refuse to believe that her husband could be unfaithful. But instead, she went silent for a long moment before saying, "Where can we meet?" We met at a small coffee shop outside the city, the kind of place where people go to work in silence, where no one would pay attention to a man and a woman sitting at a corner table, speaking in hushed voices. When Claire walked in, I recognized her immediately from the surveillance photos. She was beautiful, but there was an exhaustion in her eyes that I knew all too well. The kind of exhaustion that comes from carrying a weight you don't realize is there, until someone tells you the truth. She sat down across from me, fingers curled around her coffee cup, as if holding on to something solid would keep her from falling apart. "Tell me everything," she said. So I did. I showed her the pictures, the call logs, the messages. I laid it all out in front of her, piece by piece, until there was nothing left to question. I expected tears. I expected denial. But instead, Claire just stared at the evidence with an eerie calm, her grip on the cup tightening. "I knew something was off," she said finally. "I just didn't want to believe it." I nodded. I understood that feeling better than I wanted to admit. For a long moment, she didn't say anything, just traced the rim of her cup, her expression unreadable. Then, finally, she looked up at me, and when she spoke, her voice wasn't shaky or weak. It was steady. "I don't want to just leave him," she said. "I want him to feel this." I raised an eyebrow. "What are you saying?" She exhaled slowly, pushing the photos back toward me. "I'm saying, I don't want to be the woman who just cries and walks away. I want to make them pay for this." And just like that, an alliance was formed. We spent the next 2 hours putting together a plan. It wasn't enough to confront them. It wasn't enough to simply walk away. They needed to be caught, exposed, humiliated in a way they could never recover from. It had to be undeniable, public, something they could never escape. The perfect trap. First, we gathered everything, every piece of evidence, every text, every photo, every receipt. Claire, with a level of composure that almost scared me, pulled up Ryan's calendar and started cross-referencing dates. "They always meet on Wednesdays," she said, tapping a finger against the table. "Ryan tells me he has a networking event every week." Laura had been using the same excuse. It was almost laughable how predictable they were. We dug deeper, pinpointing patterns, places, times. And that's when we found it. A reservation. Laura and Ryan had booked a suite at a high-end hotel for the following Wednesday. It was perfect. If they wanted privacy, they had just given us the perfect stage to expose them. The plan was simple. We wouldn't just catch them. We would trap them. We'd wait for them to check in, give them time to settle in, to feel comfortable. Then, at the perfect moment, we'd walk in and shatter their little fantasy world. Claire would bring Ryan's parents. I would bring Laura's boss. And we'd make sure there was no escaping the consequences of what they had done. This wasn't just revenge. This was justice. And as we sat there, finalizing the details, I looked at Claire and realized something. She wasn't just angry. She was ready. And so was I. Some betrayals deserve nothing less than a reckoning. Catching Laura and Ryan wasn't enough. We needed them to feel the weight of their choices, to see their world crumble the way they had shattered ours. Claire and I weren't just confronting them. We were staging an execution of their lies, one they'd never forget. And they had no idea what was coming. For days, Claire and I meticulously tracked every move they made, cross-referencing their schedules, checking their habits. And then, like clockwork, we found it. A business retreat. Laura and Ryan had booked a luxury suite at an upscale hotel for the weekend. They must have thought they were clever, picking a place outside the city, far from anyone who might recognize them. But they had just handed us the perfect setup. We wasted no time. Claire and I booked a suite in the same hotel, 2 floors above them. A direct vantage point, a front row seat to their deception. And when the weekend came, we were ready. We arrived at the hotel an hour before they were scheduled to check in. The lobby buzzed with the quiet elegance of wealth, polished floors, a grand chandelier, staff moving efficiently behind the marble counters. Claire, dressed sharply in a sleek black dress, looked every bit the woman in control. No one would have guessed that just days ago, she had learned her husband was living a double life. I walked to the front desk, keeping my tone casual. My wife and I are here for the weekend. We have a special request. The concierge looked up with a practiced smile. Of course, sir. How can we assist? I leaned in slightly. We have some friends staying here tonight. We'd like to surprise them. Nothing crazy, just a little fun. Could you let us know when they arrive? A carefully folded $100 bill made its way across the counter. The concierge hesitated for only a second before discreetly nodding. I'll have a staff member notify you the moment they check in. Step 1. Complete. We made our way to our suite, the tension between Claire and me thick with anticipation. She paced near the window, checking her phone every few minutes. They should be here soon, she muttered, voice tight. They'll show, I assured her. They always do. And right on cue, my phone buzzed. 9:05 p.m. Your friends have arrived. I exhaled slowly, my pulse steady. This was it. Claire and I took the elevator down to their floor. The hallway stretched in front of us, lined with soft golden lights and doors that hid private secrets. But we knew which one was theirs. We waited. 15 minutes passed. Then 20. We wanted them comfortable, settled, thinking they were safe. And then Claire pulled out her phone. She dialed Ryan's number. It rang once, twice, straight to voicemail. She tried again. Same result. Her eyes met mine, and a slow, dark smile crept onto her lips. Your turn. I pulled out my phone and typed a message to Laura. Right arrow, hope you're enjoying your night. We're about to make it a lot more exciting. I hit send, and then, without hesitation, we stormed into the room. There are moments in life that define you. Moments so powerful, so charged with raw emotion, that they burn themselves into your memory like a scar you'll carry forever. This was one of those moments. For weeks, Claire and I had been planning this. We had tracked, we had waited, we had prepared. And now, standing in that doorway, watching their little world shatter, it was all worth it. Because this was the moment they realized they had lost everything. The second the door swung open, time seemed to slow. Laura and Ryan were tangled together in the middle of the hotel bed, so caught up in their deception that they never even heard us coming. The first thing I noticed was the look on Laura's face. Shock, terror, a split second of denial before reality came crashing down around her. She gasped, clutching the sheets, yanking them over herself as if that would somehow erase what we had just seen. Claire stood next to me, arms crossed, her expression carved from stone. For a moment, the room was completely silent. And then, I pulled out my phone, raised it. Click. A photo. A moment frozen in time. A souvenir. Laura's breath hitched. Tom, what the hell are you doing? I smirked. Oh, don't stop on our account. You seem to be having a great time. Ryan finally found his voice. Claire, wait, I can explain. Claire let out a short, sharp laugh. Explain what? That you're exactly as pathetic as I thought? That you threw away our marriage for this? She gestured toward Laura without even sparing her a glance. Don't bother, Ryan. We're done. You and your little office fling can rot together. Laura, still gripping the sheets like they were the last thing keeping her afloat, turned to me with wide, pleading eyes. Tom, please, this isn't what it looks like. I actually laughed. Really? Claire cut in, raising an eyebrow. Because it looks exactly like what it is. Ryan looked between us, mouth opening and closing, but no words came out. He was drowning, and there was no one left to throw him a lifeline. Laura, however, wasn't giving up so easily. She was already shifting gears, recalibrating, trying to take control of the situation. Tom, she said, her voice trembling, but laced with the same manipulative sweetness she had used on me for years. Let's just sit down, okay? We don't have to do this right now. We can talk. We can fix this. Her voice cracked slightly on the last words, her desperation creeping through. But I wasn't playing this game anymore. I walked over to the bedside table, reaching into my jacket pocket. And then, With deliberate calm, I placed an envelope down. Thick, neatly prepared, already signed. Laura's gaze flickered to it. Confusion, then dread. What is that?" she whispered. "Divorce papers," I said simply, with a nice little clause about infidelity affecting the settlement. She paled. I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice to a quiet, razor-sharp tone. "Enjoy being broke, Laura." For the first time since we entered the room, she looked truly shaken. Her breathing grew unsteady, her fingers tightening around the sheets. Her mind was racing, trying to calculate the damage, trying to find a way out. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. Then, louder, more frantic. "No, we can fix this. We can work through this, Tom. You can't just throw everything away." I tilted my head, feigning curiosity. "Oh, no?" Her eyes darted to Ryan, as if expecting him to do something, to back her up. But Ryan looked just as lost, just as pathetic. And then I smiled. A slow, satisfied, final smile. "Oh, Laura," I said softly. "I already did." I turned to Claire, extended my hand, and without another word, we walked out, leaving them in stunned, pathetic silence. The hallway was quiet as we walked toward the elevator, the tension finally easing from my shoulders. Claire let out a long breath, shaking her head. "That was satisfying." I chuckled. "Yeah, it really was." She pressed the elevator button, glancing at me. "Drinks? I feel like we should celebrate." I nodded. "Drinks sound good." And as we stepped inside, the doors closing behind us, I realized something. For the first time in months, I felt free. Scandals have a way of spreading like wildfire. And when the truth is ugly enough, people don't just whisper about it. They devour it. By the time Laura and Ryan woke up the next morning, probably in separate corners of that miserable hotel suite, their worlds were already burning. And neither of them had any idea just how bad things were about to get. Law firms thrive on reputation, on trust, on the illusion of integrity. Laura must have thought she was untouchable, that no one would care about a little harmless fun between colleagues. But she failed to consider one very important thing: appearances matter, especially in her world. It started with whispers, the kind that trickle through office corridors like an unseen tide, building momentum, swelling into something unstoppable. By 9 a.m., the senior partners were aware. By 10 a.m., Laura was being pulled into a closed-door meeting with the managing director. By 11 a.m., she was staring at a printed stack of text messages and photographs. Not just from me. Someone had anonymously forwarded copies of her personal conversations, time-stamped hotel receipts, and surveillance photos straight to the firm's leadership team. I may or may not have had something to do with that. Ryan had been reckless. Laura had been worse. And corporate doesn't like reckless, especially not when it makes them look bad. There was a strict policy about workplace relationships, particularly between supervisors and junior employees. A policy that Ryan, as a lesser associate, could claim ignorance on. Laura, however, no such luck. By noon, her email access was revoked. By 2 p.m., security escorted her out of the building. She wasn't fired, but she was finished. No firm would touch her after this, and she knew it. Ryan didn't fare much better. Sure, he didn't have the seniority to be the main target of the firm's fury, but that didn't mean he got off easy. In the legal world, reputation is everything. And Ryan? His name was now dirt. Clients talk. Lawyers talk more. And when your biggest accomplishment in the firm is being at the center of a scandal that tanked your boss's career, well, let's just say promotions don't come knocking. By the end of the week, he was encouraged to resign, which was just a polite way of saying, leave quietly, or we'll destroy what little future you have left. I didn't feel bad for him. Not one bit. While Laura was watching her career crumble into dust, Ryan had an entirely different nightmare waiting for him at home. Claire wasn't just done with him. She was about to make sure he felt every ounce of betrayal she had endured. The moment she left the hotel, she went straight home, packed every single one of Ryan's belongings into trash bags, and dumped them on the front lawn. Then she changed the locks. And just to make sure he got the message, she sent a single text. Right, Taro, your things are outside. Don't bother knocking. We're done. No screaming, no arguing, no dramatic scenes, just complete and utter dismissal. And that cut deeper than any shouting match ever could. When Ryan finally showed up that evening, pulling into the driveway like some lost puppy, all he found was a pile of garbage bags and a locked door. Neighbors watched. No one helped. By the time he left, defeated and humiliated, he didn't just lose a home. He lost everything. I knew it was coming. It was only a matter of time before Laura tried to reach out. Desperation makes people do stupid things. And sure enough, 2 days later, my phone buzzed with her name. Laura, Tom, please. Just talk to me. I ignored it. An hour later, Laura, I don't know what to do. Can we meet? I ignored that too. And then, one final attempt. Laura, we were good together. Don't throw everything away like this. I actually laughed. She still thought I was the one throwing things away. She had shattered our marriage with her own hands. I was just making sure she felt the weight of what she had done. I didn't bother replying. She wasn't worth the effort. I had prepared for this moment long before the confrontation at the hotel. I knew Laura would try to fight me in the divorce. I knew she'd try to salvage what little power she thought she had. But what she hadn't realized was that I had already won. Thanks to the infidelity clause in our prenup, I walked away with the majority of our assets. The house? Sold. The money? Mine. The life she had built on my support? Gone. And me? I had moved on. Literally. Into a luxury condo, one that Laura would never step foot in. It was sleek, modern, and completely mine. A fresh start in every sense of the word. And Claire? She visited often. We never talked about Ryan and Laura. Because, for the first time in a long time, they didn't matter anymore. Revenge isn't always loud. It doesn't have to be explosive, dramatic, or violent. Sometimes, the best kind of revenge is simply moving on. Happier, stronger, and completely out of reach of the people who tried to break you. That's exactly what I did. Months had passed since the hotel confrontation, and in that time, Laura and Ryan's lives had crumbled beyond repair. Ryan never recovered from his resignation. He tried to find work at another firm, but word had spread quickly. No one wanted to hire a man whose biggest accomplishment was destroying his own career over an office affair. Last I heard, he had moved into some rundown apartment, desperately trying to start over. Laura, on the other hand, was struggling even more. She was blacklisted in the legal community. No major firm wanted anything to do with her. Her reputation was ruined, and with the divorce settlement heavily in my favor, she had lost everything she once took for granted. She had gambled with her life and lost. And I had won. I didn't just move on, I thrived. My new condo was perfect, a sleek, modern space that felt like a fresh start in every way possible. And Claire? We grew closer in a way neither of us had expected. At first, we bonded over shared betrayal, two people trying to navigate the wreckage left behind by those who hurt us. But over time, something changed. We stopped talking about the past and started building something new, which is how we found ourselves on a plane to Italy, 2 glasses of champagne in hand, watching the city lights fade beneath us. We hadn't planned this trip out of spite, but fate had a funny way of delivering the final blow. The sun was setting over the Amalfi Coast when my phone buzzed. I almost didn't check it, but something made me glance at the screen. And there it was. Laura, a name that once meant everything to me. Now, it was just another missed call. I didn't even consider answering. Instead, I turned to Claire, who raised an eyebrow at my amused expression. "Let me guess," she said. "Your ex?" I smirked. "She's persistent. I'll give her that." Claire shook her head. "Let her call. Let her wonder." I stared at the screen for a moment, then swiped away the notification. Ignored. Then I opened my camera, turned it toward Claire and me, and took a picture. 2 wine glasses raised. A stunning Italian sunset in the background. And a caption that would deliver the final, perfect message. Rightero, some betrayals lead to better beginnings. Cheers to real loyalty. I posted it. Laura saw it. Ryan saw it. And just like that, they realized the truth. They had thrown away something real. And I had found happiness elsewhere. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Tom and Claire's revenge was satisfying? Or would you have done something different? Have you ever caught someone in a lie like this? How did you react? If you like this story, subscribe to the channel and give us a like.